So in our last section, we looked at graphing in what's called standard form. I don't believe I called it standard form, but in y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. It's called standard form. To do that, we found the vertex by doing negative b over 2a, did the y-intercept and mirror points and all that kind of stuff. What we're going to look at today is comparing that with vertex form. Now, vertex form reminds me a whole lot of graphing absolute value, except it's a parabola instead of a V. Now, in vertex form, it's called vertex form because the vertex is given by numbers in the equation. It's HK. Now, I want you to look at these two equations right here. I'm going to go through and I'm going to find my vertex. I just put negative b over 2a here. I probably should have put vertex. So negative b over 2a. So 4 over 2 is 2. And then to find the y value, I'll plug that back in. So let me just do that right here. So I have 4 minus 8 plus 4 is 0. Now, vertex form, you do the vertex without having to do the negative b over 2a. If it's in this kind of form right here, your vertex is at those numbers right there, 2, 0. Opposite of what you'd think here. Just like with the absolute value. Oops, 2, 0. Now, these are the same equation. I put the same equation, just one in standard form, one in vertex form. So I want you to see how you find the vertex differently, but it is the same value regardless of the form you have it in. So I'm going to ask you to do a couple of different things in terms of vertex form. The first thing I want us to do is if I give you standard form, I want us to write it in vertex form. So here's how I'm going to start. Here's vertex form. And these numbers right here are my vertex. Now I know how to find the vertex in this form. Remember my negative b over 2a stuff? So I'm going to go ahead and find the vertex. So negative b over 2a. So negative 6 divided by 2 is a negative 3. And then plug that back in. So I'll have 9 minus 18 plus 8 is a negative 1. So here's my vertex. Let me put that in my equation. Okay, so my vertex is at negative 3, so minus a negative 3. Two negatives make a positive. And I don't have two negatives here, so let me just make it a negative. Now see how it's opposite of what you would think right here? Now the last thing then I need to find is my a. The a is going to be the same in the two equations. So if this is 1, so is my a right here. So it's 1, understood 1, x plus 3, I forgot my squared in both of these, minus 1. So there's vertex form. Okay, let's do one more. Okay, so I want to write it in vertex form. Now, let me go ahead and get my a. Since I know what it is, it's going to be negative 3. That'll be easy enough, so we'll go ahead and get that first. And then we need to get our HK by doing our negative b over 2a then. So I have 12 over negative 6, so negative 2, and plug that back in. So I have 4 times negative 3 is a negative 12, plus 24 minus 8, so That's a negative 20 plus 24 is 4. So my vertex is at negative 2, 4. So let me plug that in. Okay, negative and negative is a positive. And that's a positive 4. So here's my vertex form. Okay, now here's the nice thing about graphing in vertex form. Honestly, it's super easy. It reminds me so much of graphing absolute value. These tell me where my vertex is. So I'm going to go opposite of what I think, back 3, exactly what I think here, down 4. So this is my x, this is my y, so back 3, down 4. Now, since my A is a 1, I know I'm going to be going up. Instead of using a y-intercept this time, I'm going to use sort of the idea of slope. So I'm going to go up 1 over 1. I can't keep going up 1 over 1 because there's not slope in parabolas, but I can use that idea to sketch in my picture. Okay, let's do one more of these. So I'm going to graph my vertex. So back 1, down 4. I don't know why I keep using that negative 4. And then my A is 2. So to get my first points, I'm going to use that up 2 over 1. And sketch in my parabola. Okay, so I'm going to give you a parabola here, which I probably should have already put on here. So here's my parabola. What I want us to do is write the equation in vertex form. So if I'm writing it in vertex form, what I'm going to start with is my vertex. I know these. So my vertex is at negative 2, 3. So let me put that in my equation. Okay, 2 negatives make a positive. And then I've got to figure out my A. Now here I'm going up 1 over 1. So my A is going to be 1. So it's like an understood 1, so I don't have to write it. Okay, so my vertex is at 2, 1, so let me put that into my vertex form. I don't know A yet. Opposite of what you'd think with the x, exactly what you think with the y. Now looking at this, it's upside down, so I know my A has to be negative. I'm going down 1 over 1, so 1 over 1 is 1. I do want to make sure I make it negative, so negative understood 1. Now I want us to kind of go backwards for a second. So I'm going to give you something in standard form. Well, we actually already did one like this, so we're going to skip this one and do the opposite direction. So I'm giving you something in vertex form. I want us to write it in standard form. Now, here's what we're going to go through and do. If I have 5x plus 6 squared, I'm just going to write it out twice, and then I'm going to FOIL, combine like terms, do all that fun stuff. So FOILing here, I have 25x squared plus 30x plus 30x plus 36, and then I've still got my minus 9, and I'll combine my like terms here. Okay, so 60x, and then I can combine these to get 27. So if you're writing it in standard form, you're really just multiplying everything out. And then here's the last thing that we're going to look at, and I don't know if y'all can see this or not. We have something in the way, so I'm going to move that. So what I want us to go through and do is write an equation in vertex form of a parabola with a vertex of 1, 2, and the point 2, negative 5 being on our parabola. Now, we're going to do this in vertex form. I think that's the easiest way to do it on these as opposed to standard form. Okay, so what I'm going to go through and do is put in my vertex first. That will get me a lot of the problems, so my H and my K. Now, the last thing that I need to get in order to have my entire equation is that A right there. So in order to get that, I'm going to temporarily plug in the X and the Y that I have here. So I'm going to plug in my X for the X here, the Y for the Y. So my Y is negative 5, my X is 2, and then my goal is solve for the A. So let me go through and do that. Okay, so this is just 1A, because 1 squared is 1. 1 times A is A. And then I'll subtract my 2. So my A is negative 7. So there then is my equation in vertex form. If you happen to be asked for it in standard form, you can multiply all of that out and get it written in standard form. Alright, so we're getting a little bit more into these quadratics. This is a chapter you really want to focus on because there's some hard topics in here.